Welcome to Muddy River News This Week. I'm Bob Gough. My guest today is Ted Dabrowski, and he is running for Illinois governor on the Republican side. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
And of course, sounds like you're going to have a primary with Darren Bailey, of course, who lost to Governor Pritzker last time around. And we'll see if people want to give him another bite of the apple or give you a shot. I've known Ted a long time, back when he worked for IPI and WirePoints, and we have a lot of mutual friends, Jeff Mays being one of them, of course. Good to see you in town. And I have always known you as a heck of a numbers guy. So give me some numbers on how you can improve the state of Illinois.
Well, let me start with the most important one, affordability. We have the highest property taxes in the country. And it's hurting everywhere I go. That's the number one thing people, if I average out, number one thing people talk about. It's too expensive to live here. Pritzker doubled the gas tax, the motor fuel tax. So now we're paying the second highest gas taxes in the country, the highest cell phone taxes in the country. So those are three big numbers that are pricing people out of Illinois, and too many people are leaving because of that. So that's number one. But the number two thing is jobs. And I'll give you the numbers there. Texas, since Pritzker has been in office, Texas has created 1.5 million new private sector jobs. Florida, 1.1 million new private sector jobs. Illinois, 25,000. So it's almost zero. We're not having growth, and without jobs, people have a hard time, advancing, getting bigger wages for their families, taking care of just taking care of themselves. And the third big thing is we're not teaching our kids to read, and that's a big problem. Literacy for me is our biggest problem if you strip it all down to structural. We're not teaching our kids to read anymore, and that's the same in Peoria, in Decatur, in Rockford, in Waukegan, in Cicero. The number of kids who are literate now, and it's the same thing here in Quincy. I think it's 28% of kids can read at grade level. It's extremely, extremely dangerous what we're doing.
And you talk about property taxes. Of course, property taxes, as is the most case across the state, the Adams County property tax bill, roughly 60% goes to schools. And how do we fund the schools if we lower the property taxes?
Yeah, so another number, right? We are the ninth highest. We're the ninth biggest spender on education in the country, right? And if you take the Midwest, the big Midwest, we're the highest by far. We're spending $7,000 to $8,000 more per student than Indiana, $7,000 to $8,000 more per student than Florida. So we have really big bills, and part of that is we have a huge bureaucracy, right? We have 850 school districts, and that means instead of money going to the classroom or going to our teachers, it's going to bureaucracies, right? And if you take my neck of the woods up in Wilmette, outside of Chicago suburbs, we've got one high school district, and inside of it, inside of those boundaries, are 6 feeder school districts, and they're all independent, and they all have superintendents.
I've never understood that.
They all have bookkeepers, they all have lawyers, they all have their stuff, and it costs millions of dollars, and guess who pays all that? State taxpayers, especially the pensions.
It's not only that. In Adams County, we have the Quincy Public School District. We have Camp Point, Mendon, Liberty, Payson. They each have their own superintendents. Yeah. You would think there would be some efficiencies that could be found here.
Yeah, and let me be clear, because this is such a hot issue. I'm not talking about school consolidations.
Oh God, no!
God, no! Schools, man, don't take away. Right? I mean, there's no reason to take. It's just the bureaucracies. Let the schools run independently. But let's save the money. Either put it back in the taxpayers' pockets or put it in the classroom.
We already elect a regional superintendent.
That's right.
Why don't we have that office? Again, if you're going to do something with that, why wouldn't we have that office have maybe more responsibility and maybe more oversight over some of these other ones? I know currently they're about certification and a few other things, but it seems to me like having all the, again, administrative, it's not only schools. As you well know, Illinois also has more governmental bodies than any state.
Correct, yeah. We're number one. We have 7,000 units of government, by far the most in the country, and the important thing about that is they each have taxing authority, independent taxing authority. So they don't coordinate with each other. So I live in Wilmette. We have the city government. We have a library district, and these are all coterminous, right? They share the same band. So we have a library district, a park district, right? And we have all those school districts. There's got to be room to have fewer bureaucrats. And again, I love local government. Don't get me wrong. I prefer local government much more than I do putting the power in Springfield.
No question about it.
But we don't like duplication of government. No. We don't want overlapping governments, which are wasteful. That's why we're so expensive. I mean, bottom line, we have the highest property taxes. Something has to give. But I don't think we have to hurt our education by spending less. We just have to take away the power of the bureaucracies.
It's not only that. When you talk about that, you talk about the numbers in higher ed. When you look at the regional universities like Western Illinois University and Eastern Illinois University especially, they are really hurting. Their numbers are drastically declined.
Right.
Are they worth saving? How do you save them?
Well, there's a lot of discussion about that. Are we duplicating too much of our services across universities and community colleges and all that? Can we have this one specialize in that, this other one specialize in that? Let them have their power, their centers of greatness, let's call it, and make sure we do that well rather than having a whole bunch of them all week at the same time. So I think there's a lot we can do, and I think we also have to look at fairness. I know some universities or colleges are getting money even as they shrink, and we have to find that balance of getting our funding right. And again, pensions are a big problem too.
Yeah. Well, and again,
huge pensions.
Well, pensions, and again, the city of Quincy, the tax levy for the city of Quincy primarily pays for the police and fire pensions. That's about it. Everything else in our city is primarily the funding is driven by taxes, fees, and what have you. So again, pension, and again, tier 2 is something that they tried, and I know there's been some pushback and trying to fix that. You have been dealing and working on specializing in pensions for many years in what you did with Illinois Policy Institute, with wire points and stuff. What is the pension fix?
Well, the pension fix is tough. I'll tell you the first thing we have to do, and let me tell one story beforehand. Look, if we want to, eventually Illinois should be growing out of its mess, right? If we had a thriving, growing community where we had companies coming in, people coming in, we'd throw off more and more tax revenue, and we'd be able to fund part of our problem. Much like Texas and Florida. I mean, my gosh, they're getting rid of their debts because they have so many people and so many tax revenues just from thriving. We're the opposite, right? We're shrinking. We're losing population. We're losing. We lost Caterpillar, the headquarters of Caterpillar. We lost headquarters of Tyson Foods, Boeing, Citadel's Griffin Citadel. I mean, how could we lose such amazing companies? Why wouldn't they stay in a place like Chicago area and Illinois? They're gone, and when we lose that tax base, right, we're struggling. So we need to flip things around. And Warren Buffett, the famous Warren Buffett said, I would never put a plant in Illinois because they have so much pension debt that they would come after me for the next 30 to 40 years with more and more tax hikes. That's the perception of Illinois, and we have to change that. So number one, what I would do to change the overall direction is starting tomorrow for all new workers, 401k style plans, just like everybody else in the private sector gets. Right? We should have our private sector and our public sector getting the same things. We shouldn't. I mean, it'd be all great if we could all have six-figure dollar pensions, right? Sure. But we can't. So that's number one. And then we need to get at the table and see, what do we do about these debts, because many cities are struggling. Peoria has been struggling with its pension debts. I mean, tons of cities are struggling with that. So we have to get to the table and see what can we do to make things better. But right now, right, the pension protection clause in the Constitution says we can't do anything. So we're trapped right now unless we negotiate together something at the table.
The one over Illinois is getting national headlines right now because, of course, the conflict between Governor Pritzker and President Trump. We have federal officials in Chicago right now. If you were governor, would you want federal officials in your state?
Well, if I were governor, first of all, I would do my best to get rid of the sanctuary state status that we have. We in all the welcoming programs. Look, I'm a son of immigrants. My mom came from Ecuador. My dad came from Poland. They both came legally. They both became citizens. So I really appreciate legal immigration and a planned process for having immigrants come in. But Governor Pritzker has supported the sanctuary status for both the state and Chicago. He has passed all kinds of welcoming programs where he spent nearly $2 billion on health care alone for illegal immigrants. $2 billion that could have either been lower taxes or taking care of his own residents in the state. So the problem is that he's perpetuating a problem by allowing and incentivizing so many immigrants to come here. Many of them will be criminals, just by percentage. Whatever the small percentage is still a big number. And in the end, he's by not handing over, by not cooperating with the feds, just handing over in handcuffs. Just hand them over. These are violent criminals. He's not cooperating with the feds. So that's the problem. If I were governor, I'd get rid of sanctuary status if I could. I'd sure do everything I can in my power with executive orders to cooperate. But in the end, we have to protect our people in Illinois. We have to, we have to put criminals behind bars.
When you, as part of this though, you also have to remember that we did have the governor of Texas send us some of the immigrants as well. So, and again, I know you're going to say that's because of our sanctuary state status.
Right.
But again, if you're governor though, and again, I understand you should try to work with the president or whatever, but still to have, you like small government, I like small government, nobody wants federal overreach. So why should we allow the agents of ICE to come in, and again, why should we allow them to come in and do this? Why can't we work together on this?
Right, well, let's back up a step, though, because you're right. Abbott did send immigrants here, but you have to remember where Abbott was coming from. He was getting the brunt of the,
Sure.
He had so many that it became his problem to try to get rid of some. Look, the real problem, if you back up, is Biden opened up the borders. We let, 12 million people in? 12 million people in? That's the real invasion. Pritzker's calling it an invasion. Of ICE invading, or the federal, he's calling that invasion. The real invasion is when we let 12 million people in. And how many criminals did we let in? I don't know.
Right.
And so that's the problem. And so now President Trump, whether you like him or not, he won an election and largely focused on illegal immigration and getting the bad guys out. So he's acting on that. ICE is trying to get them in. I would just, for me, if Governor Pritzker would just cooperate, it would be very simple. You hand the bad guys over in handcuffs. By opposing, by having the sanctuary status and not doing that, it forces ICE to chase them down here. And that creates chaos for everybody. That's number one. Number two, listen to Governor Pritzker's words. He's fomenting violence. I'm shocked that he's speaking the way he's calling the federal law enforcement terrorists. He's calling it invasion. He's effectively doxing a lot of those workers. He's going to me about it all the wrong way. It should be Illinoisans first. It should be not spending money and incentivizing illegal immigration here, and focus on public safety. Chicago has led the nation for 13 years in a row in murders in the entire country. 13 years in a row. Why we're not tougher on crime is a sin. And I think Pritzker and Johnson have totally ignored their obligation to the people. For public safety.
And another thing in this line, though, I mean, Gord, yes, Chicago has had the murder rates and the crime, but a lot of other cities have too. And it seems to me, though, that the president is really focusing, though, on a lot of the blue states, though. I mean, we've got, St. Louis. I'm very familiar. I go to St. Louis all the time. St. Louis's crime numbers are nothing to be proud of, and it appears Governor Kehoe is actually working on that. So, are you saying that if the cooperation, it would be nice to have bipartisan cooperation, but we can't even get it because currently our federal government's shut down. What can you do as a governor to reach across the aisle? If you win, say you win the governor's race, you're still gonna. It's a pretty good chance you're gonna have a Democrat Senate and a Democrat
and supermajorities.
House. Supermajorities on both sides.
Sure.
I worked for Governor Rauner in that same scenario, and it was tough. And Governor Rauner, and again, he went to war with Madigan, and of course, we all know what's going to happen. Governor Madigan's be reporting, or former Speaker Madigan's be reporting to prison here pretty shortly. What can you do to reach across the aisle to say, hey, let's get this state back on its feet?
Well, you said I was a numbers guy. I think I can be persuasive to a lot of people. Not everybody cares about numbers, right? Many people don't care about the facts. I think the everyday Illinoisans do care about the facts. If they understood, if they can connect the dots between they're paying the highest property taxes and Democrats are in control. They're paying the second highest gas taxes and Democrats are in control. We're having the third highest outmigration of people from this state for a long time now. We're losing our people. Democrats are in control. We need to understand that those policies that they've been running have gone against us. Now, I would be happy to work with Democrats. We all understand we have the highest property tax rates. I think there's a chance that we could all agree we need property tax relief. And I don't mean tax shifting. I don't mean like lower property taxes and raise income taxes. I'm talking about bringing down taxes. I think we could find common ground to do that. It won't be as much as I want, but I think we could do that. That's one. I think the second big thing is these schools. We're talking about, in Rockford, third grade black children only 2% of kids can read at grade level. That's a sin. It's a sin on our government, on our leadership, on our system. I don't blame teachers. I don't want to blame. I want to just say that it doesn't work, and we just pass them along and we graduate them. That has to change. And I would like to think that I can persuade the Black Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, leaders in cities across the state. Let's focus on literacy. Let's obsess about literacy, and let's come together to set high standards and to also do school choice. We have to have more options because we can't keep waiting generations for our kids to have better schools. We have to do school choice like is happening in Iowa. Iowa has education savings accounts for anybody who wants them. It doesn't matter whether you're rich, poor, black, white, you can have an education savings account. Indiana, same thing, a voucher for $8,000. Ohio, the same thing. Arizona, Florida. This school choice wave is massive. In Illinois, Governor Pritzker and the legislature killed school choice. We became the first state to kill options for minority children. We have to flip that, and I think we can build an alliance to get that back.
Last question. Like I said, I've known you for a long time, and again, you've been involved with the organization you've been involved with, very much about government budgets and efficiency and numbers and stuff like this. Why decide to take the plunge and run for office?
Well, I've been doing this for 15 years with both the Illinois Policy Institute and WirePoints. I've studied the heck out of this stuff. I've published it. I've exposed it. I've gone to grassroots groups. I've testified in the legislature. I've worked on legislation, and I think I've exposed it, and I put pretty good ideas out there, enough so that we've gotten enough attention as WirePoints and in the past, in Wall Street Journal, everywhere. But I couldn't keep complaining anymore. I said, I'm ready to lead. I'm ready to bring these ideas to the people, see if I can persuade the people. Rauner made it in, but I thought he never really won the argument with the people. He won the election, but I think he went straight to fighting in the State House. Mm-hmm. And I think you got to keep winning the people, because the people need to understand why we have these problems and that there is a solution. If we can change policy, if we can change leadership, there's a real chance to get the state back. Well, we should be a top 5 state on economic growth, on wage growth, on education. We should be, we're an amazing state. When you look at our assets, as I travel around, the potential for us is huge. There's no reason why we should be bottom 5 state on all these things. We should be competing with Tennessee and Carolina and of course Texas and Florida, and we're not. And that's, we have to dream again. Like when my parents were immigrants here in 1960, we were the state to move to, right? We were the beacon of opportunity. We're not that today, but we can be again.
Ted Dabrowski, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
That's all the time we have for now. I'm Bob Gough. Thank you for watching Muddy River News This Week.